Good morning, everyone. Jan has mentioned that I have some exciting stuff happening a little later, but right now I'm excited and pleased to be with you. And I want to invite you to be with me in body and in song. I'm going to sing a spiritual that I'm sure we all know and to bring in some mudras, some movements inspired by American Sign Language. So just do what I do in your square. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. And I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. Just a little more peace. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul.
Thank you very much, Lea. That was beautiful. I want to welcome everybody again to Unity Center DC's Zoom service. And my name is Kathleen, and I'm the platform assistant today. And as you just heard, we have Lea Morris as our musician coming from us from Germany. I do want to mention before I forget that Lea does have to leave after the third selection today, so she won't be here during our hospitality time. And also, we have a new speaker today, very fortunate, Reverend Lily Boyles. She was brought up Unity, so she's very familiar with what we preach here, and she's a minister, Unity minister, and she is currently almost finished with working towards becoming a board certified chaplain. She works right now as a chaplain, but now she's going to be a board certified chaplain. So be ready to congratulate her because that's her dream. Her talk today is entitled PAUSE, again, an acronym. So postpone actions until serenity emerges. And now for our prayer, before we get into Lea Morris again with her music, I picked something by Dana Faulds called Walk Slowly. It only takes a reminder to breathe a moment, to be still. And just like that, something in me settles, softens, makes space for imperfection. The harsh voice of judgment drops to a whisper, and I remember again that life isn't a relay race, that we will all cross the finish line, that waking up to life is what we were born for. As many times as I forget, catch myself charging forward without ever even knowing where I'm going. that many times, I can make the choice to stop, to breathe, and be, and walk slowly into the mystery.
That many times. Mm. Do nothing until you hear from me. My spirit says, my spirit tells me. Do nothing until you hear from me, and then give it your everything. Do nothing until you hear from me. My spirit says, my spirit tells me. Do nothing until you hear from me, and then give it your everything. Do nothing until you hear from me. My spirit says, my spirit tells me. Do nothing until you hear from me, and then give it your everything. Do nothing until you hear from me. My spirit says, my spirit tells me. Do nothing until my spirit says, and then give it your everything. Do nothing until you hear from me. My spirit says, my spirit nothing. Do nothing. Give it your everything.
I think that might be the coolest intro music I've ever got to be a part of before my talk. So incredible. And so set the tone so perfectly. So good morning. I am so excited to be here. I want to acknowledge just the space that we are all coming from this morning. So whatever your energy is this morning, if you are excited and ready for the day, if your heart is needing a little reprieve, if you are just working on being present, all of that is welcome and accepted here, just as you are. One of the gifts of growing up in unity is the reminder that I was affirmed every Sunday growing up that you are a perfect child of God, and God and I love you just the way you are. So I just want to acknowledge that from the get, that all of you is welcome here now. This morning, when I was thinking about what is the talk for this community, the real question is, what is the talk I need? Because what happens when you start writing a talk, at least for me, is I get to dive into material. I get to go into the archives of unity, scripture, pieces of story, and really, what is the piece that my heart needs? And it was a reminder about the sacredness of the pause. When I was in therapy a handful of years ago, my therapist, Nick, was the one who had offered me the acronym of PAUSE. Postpone action until serenity emerges. And this was a point in my life that I would not willingly pause. It took until life would say, oh, you have to pause, that I would actually listen. Some of those spiritual 2x4s really needed to make an imprint in my head before I might say, oh, I should rest. Oh, I am reacting to life, not responding to life. And growing up in unity, even feeling like I had all these tools, I was still in a point where I was moving without intention. I was doing without serenity. And so the idea of pausing became a continued lesson, I think a lifelong lesson, as I joke that I am a professional busybody. It is part of my work to say, okay, when do I keep moving? And when is there a piece of spirit as universal, but spirit within me that is saying, hey, is there serenity here? And is that the moment to pause and postpone action until serenity emerges? I don't know about you and how you connect to the word serenity, but for me, it is a fully embodied knowing of peace. That when you have that moment, oftentimes in the quiet, where all the pieces of you, your mind, your body, your spirit, all just know the right direction, know the right action, know the right energy, know exactly who you are and where you are supposed to be. That is what serenity is for me. And we all connect to what serenity is, what serenity feels like, what we understand as ultimate peace. And so one of the moments in the pause, the sacred pause, is what precedes not only the action, but in between the pause and the action, that is when serenity is at the core. In my intro, it was shared about my role that I have stepped into ministry as a hospital chaplain. I work at the University of Kansas Health System, which means that when I am there in service with my team, there is anywhere upwards of 900 patients, their loved ones, in an entire medical team of thousands. As you can imagine, in my role, there's not always a lot of time to naturally pause. There is always more people to see. There is always more grief to hold. There is always someone who has a need for a chaplain, for a listening ear. But what I have realized as part of my job is to not just pause for myself, to let spirit move in me, but offer time in a pause for other people. So much of my job is just holding space in the quiet. And sometimes that is that very tense moment after someone gives birth right before a baby starts to cry. And then everyone can take a deep breath. Sometimes that's holding space in the quiet as a loved one makes the decision to focus on comfort care instead of continuing to fight a good fight against a disease. Sometimes that is being in the space for me as a care provider of waiting, of not knowing what are the words to say, but taking that pause and not having it be my words, but having it be the words of the divine that flow through me. When I pause, that is my co-creation with the divine saying, this is your space to come through. One of the pieces in Unity that I love as a student who hopes to be a student for my whole entire life is that I know that the wisdom that I have and the information I can tap into is timeless and eternal. And so much of the wisdom that is mine has come from before me. And so part of the wisdom that I want to bring in today is actually a transcript of a radio broadcast from 1981 from Eric Butterworth. Eric Butterworth did a series called On the Air, and he did about 30-minute talks in a course of time. And so he would take a topic, and it was just kind of a off-the-dome stream of consciousness with Eric Butterworth. Truthunity.net, if you do not have that as part of your archive arsenal, it is an incredible resource that has not only the actual transcript of this half an hour, I think he did like 12 talks on 12 different topics, but it also has the actual recording. So part of in this process of this week thinking about the pause, thinking about time, was I got to listen and read the wisdom of Eric Butterworth talk about time. And so I'm going to offer you some of his words, because even from 1981, it still feels like this could be from a Unity publication now. Eric Butterworth says, from time to time, I think it's important that we stand back a little bit from life and the matrix of time and really ponder the fundamental truth that there is no time in spirit. We all have those experiences where we get very much trapped into the schedules of busyness. But I think we need occasionally to remember that if we get centered within ourselves, the realization of our unique relationship to the divine flow, we suddenly find ourselves in the ease and timelessness of spirit. Of course, this involves some special commitments to make time, to take time, to pause occasionally, and to enter into that place and reality of knowing our oneness. He goes on to say, maybe we need from time to time to reread that little bit of the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus deals with this very question. When he says, be not anxious, consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. Yet I say unto you, even the Solomon in his glory was not like arrayed of one of these things. Obviously, Jesus was aware of the human living, and we may say, but times are different than those days. But I suspect that people have always had a problem with time. Possibly even Adam, coming back from the countryside, was rushing home to be there in time, to be there when his wife needed him. At this point in the recording, Eric Butterworth laughs at his own joke, and I loved that. He goes on to say, I suppose all throughout history, people have had the challenge of entrapment, of the urgency of experience. So I think that Jesus knew that we sometimes get caught up in the frantic struggle for things and the rush against time. And so, in a sense, Jesus was saying, slow down. Life is not something to be found. Life is not something to get caught up with. Life is. You're in it. It is in you. Let it unfold. Let God be God in you. Eric Butterworth, I think, was one of the most transformational voices for not only the unity movement, but for my personal path. In his candor, but also his wisdom. The reminder. What if Jesus was saying, slow down. Life is not something to be found. Life is not something to get caught up in. Life is. You're in it. It is in you. Let it unfold. Let God be God in you. Well, that sounds easy, right? Sure. We'll just slow down. We'll just have it be easy. Let God be God in me. Sure, I say yes to that ease. And yet, in the humanness that is in me, I can also say, oh, but I don't have time. Well, God can be God in me when I have a day off. I can let life unfold if it's unfolding according to what I want. All of these human stipulations that we put onto the expansiveness of the eternal spirit that we know as God through many names. That is our work, I think. And so much of that in the space of what can I control is how I show up. How I say, I will take a pause here. Instead of saying, oh, let me continue moving about my to-do list. How about I say, have I paused enough? Have I given all of this enough time? I wonder what it would feel like if we started there instead of looking at the whole list. When I was in college, I had an opportunity to study abroad in India. I had gone through a breakup and had pretty impulsively bought a one-way ticket to Kathmandu, Nepal. And my mom, being a very cool mom, was like, yeah, that seems like what you need to do. And so I found a program in India to study abroad. Since I was already on that side of the world, I figured, let's just see how far I can take this. And I had met with my academic advisor, and she had said, well, with this program, with all the classes you're planning to take, it actually seems like you wouldn't get behind and you'd actually get a minor. And I said, oh, well, that sounds great. I get to heal my heart. I get a sense of adventure. I'm doing this grand thing, and I'm not going to be behind in my education. What a win. And it was. From a moment of just a deep knowing that I needed to not only get out of my space and my life, but get across the world to discover who I was at that point, every single thing fell into place. Things that I knew I needed, things that I didn't know I needed. And that adventure underpinned a motto that I hold in my life that I want to offer you as part of this. What if it was easy? What if all that is meant for me is easy? What if everything that is mine to accomplish, to do, to become, to step into, to be in that space, what if it was easy? Not that I have to fight to have a seat at the table. Not that I have to work so hard to prove myself worthy. What if all of that was taken off the table and there was just a seat for you, exactly where you're supposed to be? The gift of letting life unfold, letting God be God in us, and allowing space is that it's easy. Butterworth goes on to say in the transcript, he says, and then suddenly, beautifully, there's no question of how much time do I have. The question is only what needs to be done, and as quick as you can snap your fingers, you are in the flow. Guidance comes, ideas flow, and the job that could have taken weeks is now done in 30 minutes. You may say, how can it possibly happen that this great miracle, or perhaps the non-miracle of life? Because in infinite mind, that which needs to be done, that's what we seek to do, that which we believe we can do is already done if we just let it happen. Let thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Butterworth says, so if you take time always to get quiet and have a prayer experience, a silence, a time of oneness, then you'll never be rushed into any job, and the pressure of urgency and tension will be released. And you will be in the flow, and things will be done easily, and they will be done well, and without any sense of personal deterioration or sacrifice. And I think it's important to be alert to those signals so that when you're about to start something you're caught up with in a sense of urgency, when it's running for a subway or frantically trying to get the job done before 5 o'clock, that is the very time to say, now, wait a minute, get still. Even if only for 15 seconds. 15 seconds is not all that much time as you measure time as it can be. But that is the time to get yourself attuned. Just a minute now. Take a deep breath and realize your oneness with the divine flow. Realize that time can be a great servant, but it should never be a slave or a master to us. Let yourself be in tune with the rhythm and flow of the eternal that works within you, and suddenly you are free. The shell is broken, and now you have all of the time that is yours to let this process flow within you, and all will be done. Eric Butterworth, 1981, brought me the wisdom I needed to go and figure out in Bangalore, India, 8 years ago. Because all of this is a reminder that as we are human and as we are divine, some of this is our lesson to learn individually, but also collectively. And the only way to change the collective is to start with each of us. And so one of the pieces of being able to do this work together is I'm going to finish with some words from one of my favorite authors, William Blake. We're going to move into a song experience, and then we're going to be able to take some time in meditation and practice this sacred pause for ourselves. But what William Blake says is to see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity within an hour. Eric Butterworth quotes this. It's been on right back there on my wall for years that I feel connected to Eric Butterworth. His commentary says, that is the kind of relativity I think we all need to deal with prayerfully. In a sense, going back to Jesus with the Sermon on the Mount, and what I'm trying to tell you this morning is perhaps looking in the mirror and saying to myself, more importantly, slow me down. Let me get in tune. Let me get off the treadmill. Let me get in the sense of oneness with the rhythm of life. Let me get in tune with the pace that is not related to a ticking clock, but to the divine flow. in me and in the harmonious outworking that is right and good for all concerned. Slow me down, Lord. Let me be. So we're going to have this moment where we are going to tap in to the song of our thoughts, our prayers, and then we will take a sacred pause together in meditation. And so in the energy and in the vibration of our thoughts and our prayers coming together, I invite you wherever you are to just get settled in your space, get settled in your body. If it supports you to close your outer eyes, I invite you to do so. And find the rhythm of your breath that comes naturally. Breathing in and breathing out. As your breath continues to be the inflow and outflow, I invite you to just notice your body. If there is any place of pain or tension in the physical body, I invite you to just notice it. Thank it for letting you know that it is there. Not try to change it in any way. If there is any piece of thought on your mind, I invite you to just notice. If there is anything heavy or unsettled in your heart, in your spirit, I invite you to just notice that. Acknowledging that if there is anything to come up for you, it is coming up intentionally to be seen. And so as we continue to breathe deeply, we breathe through our entire body, feeling the inflow and outflow of breath, just as the inflow and outflow of spirit continues. And as you continue to breathe, I invite you to just focus your awareness. Focus your awareness on what does peace feel like? What does serenity feel like? Feel it in your body. Maybe your mind's eye is putting you in a place where you feel peace. At the beach, in the mountains, a quiet place. What does peace feel like? What does serenity feel like? And I invite you to have that sense of peace permeate through every cell of your body, moving into each bone, each ligament, each muscle, each cell, connecting in with the truth of who we are, who each of us is, as a conduit for peace. And if there is any place in your body, in your community, in this world that does not feel peaceful, I invite you to mentally surround, send energy to, focus on bringing peace to those areas. we continue to send peace into the places where peace is needed, knowing that we are tapping into an infinite, indwelling well of peace that can never be empty, that we can always pull from, that is always available to us. So I invite you to return back to your space, to your body, and say to yourself, I am peace. As you wiggle your toes, maybe shrug your shoulders, and open your eyes and return back to this time and this space, still with your peace.
Trouble above, trouble below, trouble ahead of me. What do you know? I wake up in the morning. What do I find? Trouble is everywhere, but ain't none on my mind. 'Cause I got peace like a river, love through the night. I got joy like a fountain, and I'm gonna be alright. Yes, I've got rhythm and harmony ringing in me. Love is free, peace is free, and joy is free, free, free. So is there strife in the world? Sometimes strife in the home. Are you feeling a little lost? Sometimes feeling alone, waking up at midnight. Do you remember those dreams about riding a raft down a cool, gentle stream? Yes, you can have peace like a river, love through the night. You can have joy like a fountain. Yes, you can be alright, 'cause you got rhythm and harmony ringing in you. Love is true, peace is true, joy is true, true, true. Whatever way we're looking, yes, there is something there to see. Is life a paradise or a prison? Tell me, what do you believe? We can have peace like a river, love from our souls. We can have joy as a beacon, just guiding everywhere we go. Just let your heart beat the rhythm, let the anthem we sing be. Love is free, peace is free, joy is free, free, free. I know you know that joy is free, free, free. Thank you.
So as my closing prayer, just taking something that Donna Markova wrote, okay? They say a child is born a blank shape to be molded, a tabula rasa to be written upon, but children come like a plant with a rhizome, its food source, the genetic coding for what flower it will become, how often it will bear fruit, what its artistry is. All of that born into it with the seed. The role of the gardener then is simply to discern the manner of plant or child crying, ready to emerge. The role of the gardener, the parent, our parent then, is simply to ask, how do I help it grow into what it is in its roots?